Hello there everybody, Adam Clery from FourFourTwo here, joined by Mark White from FourFourTwo. How's the doing?
I'm good, how are you, Adam?
I'm absolutely fantastic, but I'll tell you what's not absolutely fantastic, and that's Manchester United's latest prospects of getting into the Champions League, because according to a story that started to break through last night, somebody has finally checked the UEFA rules owing to multi-club ownership in their competitions. And they might have a little bit of a problem. Because as you know, Mark, there is this Sir Jim Ratcliffe potential minority takeover of Manchester United. And that would make them, in effect, in a management sense, part of the Ineos Group. And as of course you also know, Mark, the Ineos Group also own
OGC Nice,
the French club, who are currently flying in Ligue 1. Thanks for just bailing me out there, 'cause I've completely forgotten the name. And if they were both part of the same ownership group, they would both not be allowed in the Champions League. Now that is potentially absolutely catastrophic. Now, if you think this is one of those stories where it's like, well, that sounds like a good headline, but there's not really anything in it, surely there's some kind of workaround. No, there's not. That would literally be the case. I have here the official UEFA documentation relating to the integrity of the game / multi-club ownership. And would you like to hear the official rules, Mark?
Do you know, Adam? I would.
To ensure the integrity of the UEFA club competition, i.e. the UEFA Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, you know all the ones, no club participating in a UEFA club competition may either directly or indirectly hold or deal in the securities or shares of any other club participating in a UEFA club competition. So that means it doesn't matter if it's a minority share, because they're being operated by largely the same party. They would not both be allowed in the competition. Now, you might also be sitting there thinking, well, come on, there's prestige. There's a prestige element to this. Obviously, if you're going to have either Man United or Nice in the Champions League, then they'll just pick Man United, right? But it doesn't work like that, because there's clauses. There's clauses here in Article 5 which determine which club would be allowed to enter. And would you like to hear those as well, Mark?
I would, yeah.
So, order and precedent is given to the club which qualifies on sporting merit for the most prestigious competition. So if one got into the Champions League and one got into the Europa League, then obviously the Champions League team would then go through. But more importantly than that, the club which was ranked highest in the domestic championship, giving it access to that competition. Which means, because OGC Nice are currently second in Ligue 1, and purely on merit, I would say, they're absolutely flying. That doesn't look like it's a fluke by any stretch of the imagination. Were they to finish second, Manchester United would need to finish first in the Premier League, or win it as it's known, in order to get into the Champions League, which they are currently not looking overly likely to do. So the first question, Mark, the most important question here is this even an issue for Manchester United, or are they too far gone to be worrying about Champions League football this season?
Well, it's not an issue at the moment, given that a lot of Manchester United fans would probably just settle for actually getting in the Europa League at the moment. But you never know with the second half of the season. Liverpool were in a similar state this time last season. They managed to only just finish a few points off the Champions League, so it might become an issue in a couple of months' time.
See, my thinking behind this is, surely if you are Sir Jim Ratcliffe, allegedly quite an intelligent man, you must be aware of this rule when you're trying to basically bring in a multi-club ownership model for yourself. So is there possibly something in the back pocket here? We have heard some talk about maybe there's going to be some rule changes, or they're going to relax some of these rules. Of course, there was the vote this week about multi-club ownership over players and bringing in people in January. Do you think maybe Man United are already aware of this, and either they've sort of resigned themselves to not qualifying for Europe, or they've got a sneaky plan?
You would think that they'd have some kind of idea, but given how Manchester United have operated in the last 5-10 years, I don't blame fans for being a little bit concerned. It does seem like perhaps there is a trick up the sleeve of Ratcliffe.
But none of us can speculate on what the sneaky plan might be.
None of us know, and it does seem a little bit like this whole ownership, this whole takeover that he's got coming, it sort of feels a little bit off the cuff. It feels like an opportunity that came along to buy his lifelong club, and none of us know really how this is going to go. I mean, none of us know if they're going to be successful, but none of us know what's going to happen to Nice either, really.
Do you think there's any chance that Nice might suddenly have a spectacular and suspicious drop in form with this takeover to happen?
Well, I mean...
no, they've lost 9 consecutive games.
Well, I mean, they might even be put up for sale. If this is the club that Ratcliffe wants to put all his eggs in the basket of, then you never know. You might actually decide it's been Nice.
It's been Nice. But that's it for now. Yeah, I think probably one of the main things with this is obviously multi-club ownership is really in the news right now in the Premier League. So obviously they've just had that vote about whether or not clubs, not naming any clubs, nobody in particular, can loan players from their Saudi colleagues over the thing. But obviously there was the thing on the overlap with Gary Neville. He spoke to one of the people at UEFA. They are talking about sort of like relaxing this. Obviously both the Red Bull clubs are allowed to participate in the same competition every season because UEFA have received assurances or guarantees that while they are owned by the same organisation, they are operationally independent. Like there is nobody who works between the two. They have no impact on one another. Yeah, right. So is Man United a big enough club, I think is the question I want to ask, that this would finally force them to be like, do you know what? Would rather have Man United, who for all the last couple of years have not been great. They still attracted a massive TV audience. They are still, in the eyes of most people across Europe, a massive, massive football club. Are they so big that this might just really push through a legislation change where it's like, well, we can either just relax this now when it's not like there's loads of clubs in this situation and every year they're banning teams from turning up. Is it just going to be a case of like, well, it's affecting Man United now, we should probably just grow up and not stop this happening?
You would think so. You would think that given the way that things have gone with UEFA, given how big clubs want the power these days, given that they have this threat that we will walk away from UEFA competitions if you don't run them quite to our liking, you would expect it to go that way. And there might be an issue in a couple of years where, Al Nassr have been rumoured to be invited into the Champions League.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and if Newcastle are still qualifying for the Champions League at that point...
Oh my God, I hadn't even thought about that.
Then that becomes an integrity issue.
Oh my God.
You've got the issue that Chelsea wanted to buy, was it Sporting?
Yeah.
In Portugal. Yeah. They've obviously still got Strasbourg in France. This isn't a purely Manchester United
absolutely not. No.
issue. And there are lots and lots of clubs in which this will affect either now, either in 5 years, in 10 years. Look at Manchester City. I mean, they're obviously going to qualify for the Champions League this season.
My money is on that happening, yes.
But what about Girona in Spain? Girona are riding high in La Liga. And if they qualify for the Champions League, are they going to play in the Champions League? I mean, Man City could theoretically finish third. Girona, by some fluke, could finish second. Are you really not going to have Man City?
Well, you see, this is why I partly think the Man United thing's so interesting, because you'd expect, even if Girona do get into the top four in Spain, you'd expect Man City to outperform them in the league. Like they're favourites to win the league again. You would imagine if they don't do that, second will be as bad as it gets for them. And obviously there is a third clause in here I didn't bother reading out where if you are level, the priority is given to the nation with the higher ranking. And of course England are going after that fifth Champions League spot. They currently do rank higher than Spain. So Girona would have to beat Man City instead of just like matching them. I imagine UEFA would be like, we don't care about Girona being in the Champions League actually at all. In fact, you've kept like a Valencia or another good Spanish team out of the equation. So we're quite happy with that. It's now that this is sort of the first time it's ever been like, wait, a massive, massive club with a global audience and huge, enormous international fan base are going to be kept out by checks notes nice? Well, that can't be going on, can it? So I think this is why the Man United thing is so interesting, because it's like, they love money. UEFA really, really love money. They're restructuring the Champions League next year purely because of money. So this might be the money situation that sort of forces that. Anyway, look, gun to your head, which is a terrible analogy, but do you think Man United get into the Champions League next season? And by that question, I mean league position and UEFA rules.
League position, no. UEFA rules, yes. I feel like if Manchester United are to finish in the top four, or five, we just don't know at the moment, I feel like it would be groundbreaking if UEFA did not allow them into the competition. I can't think of a single... It would be unprecedented. I can't think of a single example of UEFA not allowing a club into the competition.
On such a technicality, yeah.
There was all this talk when the Red Bulls came along, and that was fine. We've not heard anything about Brighton and Union Saint-Gilloise.
Hardly anything.
You know, that's not really been an issue. I don't know the technicalities of that, but it would just be... It doesn't seem like in football this sort of thing happens enough.
No.
It doesn't seem like...
The rules they've got in place to stop certain things happening, which have just never happened anyway, so they would probably... I'll sum this up for you, right? I think it's one of those things where if they did stop Man United going into the Champions League because of this technicality, it would be something that's regarded as absolutely hilarious by fans of every other English club in the country, but also, deep down, incredibly stupid by everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be... If you qualify for something as hard to get into as the Champions League, this shouldn't stop you going into it because of just like some bored percentage that you've got. Is my opinion.
I mean, you say that as a neutral, it would be really funny, but I always think this when we watch World Cups. Really I always think this, that you're watching Costa Rica against Brazil and you're thinking it would be really funny if Costa Rica actually won this. It would be funny if they get through to the next round. But really, you would rather watch the better teams. And as a neutral, I would rather watch Manchester United against Manchester City in a Champions League semi-final than Nice versus Girona. And I think UEFA agree. Not that Nice and Girona shouldn't compete because they're not as exciting teams, but I do think if you finish in the top four, that should be enough to get you into the Champions League without all this legal technicality that comes along.
And on that, on that absolutely massive admission of guilt from an Arsenal fan that he'd rather watch Man United versus Man City in the Champions League, we're going to leave it there, but please do let us know what you think of this. Do they not need to worry about this? Are they too far away from the top four? Would it be ridiculous if they stopped them getting in? Or would it be, as we've mentioned, kind of just really funny? All opinions welcome in the comments below. Mark, if they wanted to get you on Twitter, which no doubt they do, where would they do that?
It's Mark White, but it's an L instead of an I, because I've got a boring name.
That's so undignified. Get me at Adam Clery, Clery, all spelled correctly with no spaces in it whatsoever. One of a kind. Get 442. The socials are in the corner of the video. Always and forever. Please buy the latest issue of the magazine. It's dead good. You're in it. I'm in it. Loads of people are in it. And it's available from all good retailers. And the crap ones too. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe to us here on 442 if you enjoyed this. And if not, well, we'll see you next time and we'll change your mind. Goodbye.
See ya.